I really thought I wouldn't like this book that much because it was so hyped. I have read about 20 books from January to March, and these are the books that I like the most. Once Upon a Tomb is a very interesting memoir. It almost feels like a fiction because of the setting and what he does as a bookseller. Because he is not any bookseller, he sells very expensive and special books. So the books that you cannot really easily get. It almost feels like you're reading a cozy fantasy book because of the author's writing style and how it is structured. There is no huge conflict in this book, and it's more about daily episodes and what he does as this bookseller. While I was reading, I didn't really feel like stressed. It was more like indulging my curiosity. And the customers and the colleagues are also very interesting people, so it makes a very tight-knit story about this one space. It doesn't have magical realism in this book, but it still has that cozy fantasy vibe. And it is not that long, so if you want to have that kind of palate cleanser and if you want to feel that old bookstore and old library, it is a good book. I really thought I wouldn't like this book that much because it was so hyped, but I actually really enjoyed the story. And that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. There were several times I picked up this book and put it down and let it marinate. But when I finally picked it up, it was a very interesting story. It shows the long and very, let's say, adventurous career and marriages of Evelyn Hugo, and it is from this perspective of interviewing her. Since the story has the glamour of Hollywood and also looking behind the glamour of the stage, it really pulls you into the story if you have been already interested in that topic. Also, the sentence structure itself is not that hard to understand, so you don't really have the moment that you kind of have to stop and try to process what it's saying. It's more like you're following the flow of the story. And if you have already read other books from this author, you might see this kind of surprise entrance of the character from another book. I think it's best to get into this book without really knowing that much. If you already know how it will go, I don't think you will really get that kind of shock value and surprise. And I think it is pivotal to not know that kind of secret twist in advance, because otherwise you will just follow along the story until that happens and you might just feel like, okay, that's how it is. But if you really don't expect it and that happens, that really takes you away from kind of like your mind. Another marinated and the best book I read in this first quarter is Project Hail Mary. It is a super thick sci-fi book about this astronaut who has to save the Earth and he doesn't know what to do because he has lost his memory a lot while he was being shipped to the space. I was quite worried that I wouldn't really understand what is happening in this book because I'm not really well versed in science, but still I could understand what was happening, and that was great because the plot line itself is awesome. So many things happen in this book and there's a constant timeline shift between the past and present. But since the entire book is from this one perspective, I didn't really have the hard time. It really shows what makes humans, what makes intellectuals, and how friendship can overcome a lot of struggles. I'm pretty sure there is a movie deal going on for this, and I really hope they do the justice to this book because it was such a fun sci-fi book that I have ever read. And this one really changed my preconception about sci-fi genre itself, because especially in a book when there's a lot of explanation about science and mathematics, I thought it'll be very easy to lose the track completely. If you want to try a sci-fi book and don't know where to start, this is the one. The last favorite book is Sense and Sensibility. I know it is a very old classic, but it is so fun. It is not easy to read Old English, but when you get the funny parts, it's so funny, even if it was written a while ago. Of course, the norms and status quo of that era is very different from ours, but the basic human feelings and emotions are all the same. A parent caring for their children, conflicts between siblings, and brokenheartedness. I also highly recommend watching the movie first, the one with Kate Winslet and Emma Thompson, I think. The movie was almost the same with the book. Also, another thing that helped me to enjoy this book was listening to audiobook version of it while reading the physical one. So the key part is listening and reading at the same time. It is really useful, especially when you are not sure about what this written sentence means, but with the audio recording, you can guess the meaning of it way easily. It has all kinds of relationship conflicts. It's so juicy. It's like Regency era tea flying away all around the room. Also, the character development of main characters are phenomenal. They all have flaws and they have things that they have to overcome, and they actually do it in the very reasonable pace. It doesn't make the main character as this kind of heroic saint level. So this book has a lot of love toward flawed characters and how they develop with relationships and conflicts. There is a reason why this book still remains as a classic. So those are the books that I really enjoyed this first quarter. I hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you guys later. Bye!